Hey there tuners and tunies, and wow, what a year it's been. I've talked about bad design, bad games from my childhood, and even bad people. Here's a thought. Maybe I should talk about something positive for once, really get my gears turning. So, how about we try that? I mean, how hard can it be? I actually can't do it. It's impossible.
There are few games I love more in this world than Stardew Valley, an indie game developed by Concerned Ape and released all the way back in 2016. It's a farming game that... Gay.
Well, you're gay.
Hey man, you don't have to be so mean about it, I was just doing a big funny gag. It's a farming game. A spiritual successor to Harvest Moon, in fact, which was the pioneer of the genre back on the SNES. The series still exists today. Kind of. It's now two series for some reason, one still going by Harvest Moon, made by the publishers of the original franchise, and the other one going by Story of Seasons, developed by the original developers of the franchise.
Why?
It's a really weird situation, and not one that resulted in the best of games. Neither of these franchises have ever reached the heights of the originals, and none of them involve the original creator, making them feel a little bit hollow. But in its place came Stardew Valley, a throwback to the first ever Harvest Moon game on the SNES, but with a whole lot more content. Ironically enough, Stardew Valley received critical acclaim upon its release, and currently has a Metacritic rating higher than any Harvest Moon game. And this was a game made entirely by one guy. Programming, music, dialogue, everything except marketing and publishing was done by him. How in the world did he manage it?
I don't even like Harvest Moon, it's just boring. So to play Stardew Valley and for it to instantly become my favourite game of all time is pretty impressive. So today, for this show's 1 year anniversary, I'm finally taking a look at Stardew Valley and why it captured me in the way it did.
Stardew Valley begins with almost the exact same opening as Harvest Moon, that being a significant family member on their deathbed.
I'm serious, this is how they all start. It's actually rule number 1 in the Farming Game Creation Guide. There is a reason why Farming Simulator isn't all too well received.
They give you a sealed envelope which they ask you not to open until the burden of modern life gets too much to handle, which is just excellent narrative storytelling. Flash forward 20 or so years and you are now working at Jojico, the evil corporation of the game. Inevitably you end up opening the letter, which contains the deed to a farm, located in Stardew Valley.
Thanks, Grandpa, this farm will sure cure my depression.
And what a surprise, the farm is a complete wasteland. Thankfully, we have the muscles of a god who can chop down an entire tree in just a few swings and bust open rocks without breaking a sweat. So in no time, I've planted a few crops, cleaned up the immediate vicinity, and even put down a neat little path. Of course, beyond the initial setup of crops, you are prompted to go and explore the rest of Stardew Valley. And this is where the game begins to really become something special. Like Harvest Moon, there are a number of different villagers to interact with, each with their own distinct personalities that you can befriend and learn more about as you go. The more you interact, the more your relationships will improve, and thus the more you get out of it, whether that be a cutscene, more dialogue, or occasional letters with new recipes. On top of this is a gift system, with each villager having their own specific tastes, and each gift either positively or negatively affecting the relationship. The value of each gift can be discovered a number of different ways, either through their conversations with you, someone else's conversations with you, common sense, or perhaps, best of all, the character's wiki page.
Or you can spend £30 on a hand-drawn guidebook. like I did. And I'm the one who wonders why I don't have any money.
For example, Linus. He's the local homeless guy who lives in a tent in the mountains, and predictably, he doesn't like you very much at the start. But as you talk to him more, he begins to open up to you, eventually apologising for his actions once you reach a high enough friend level. Then his dialogue shifts, being more open about his life and more friendly towards you. This is really basic stuff, but the way it has been implemented is so natural and engaging that it stands out. Bear in mind, this is just one character. Every single one, besides the few that you can't interact with, has an arc like this, some deeper than others. Shane is a crippling alcoholic who hates his life and everyone around him, but by the time you've become close friends, he's begun to sort his life out. Leah is an artist who struggles with her confidence, but with your help, she finally organises an art show. These are quite similar in ideas, but are so wildly different in execution that each feels like an organic and fresh story being told.
Of course, I couldn't forget Stardew Valley's actual story, which... What was I going to say again? Yep.
Yo, Sparkie. How is your social life holding up again?
Oh yeah, non-existent.
The main story, if you can call it that, is based on the town's abandoned community centre, which is currently home to a species known as the Junimos, some apple-shaped creatures. Why are they shaped like apples? Who knows, maybe because they're nature related and like to protect the environment, but at the same time, I don't see environmentalists walking around with an apple for a head. After speaking to the wizard, yes, there is a wizard in this game, and after taking some forest drugs, you can now go back to the community centre and complete a variety of bundles, all of which count towards rebuilding the place. There are ones for farming, foraging, mining, fishing, and money, which all vary in difficulty and complexity and thus give you different rewards for completing them. For example, the farming and foraging bundles are split up based on seasons, but also have additional side bundles that ask for a more specific set of items. The fishing ones are split up based on location, the mining ones are specific to the different things you do while mining, and the money ones are just money. These sound really basic, and to an extent they are, but they serve almost as a glue to hold the game together. They act as a constant ongoing goal besides the ones that you have set yourself, which always gives you something to do, regardless of how far you are into the game. Especially since Stardew Valley can get boring after a while, particularly if you dedicate yourself to one part of the game only, these are the perfect motivator to keep you playing, and the conclusion of it all does shake up the world quite nicely, even if it's a little subtle.
Hey guys, don't mind me just playing A Link to the Past on my Super Nintendo Entertainment System Classic Mini. For no other reason than because I enjoy the game and not in any way an allusion to an upcoming segment of the video. Anyway, let's talk about
Oh, pixel art. You naive fool. What was once a unique aesthetic in indie games is now indie games in general. It is actually quite difficult nowadays to find an indie game that doesn't use pixel art as its graphical style, which, while not bad per se, it can definitely be appealing if done right. It is beginning to become oversaturated. Artists, if using pixel art, can now no longer rely on that gimmick alone. The art must be great as well, and as more and more games flood the marketplace, it becomes harder and harder to stand out. So what did Stardew Valley do so well that completely captivated me? For a start, it looks stunning. Not stunning as in, wow, let me take a photo of this art and make an inspirational Instagram post about it. More so just a silent appreciation of it. Everywhere you go, you are shown piece after piece of fantastic sprite work, whether that be the intrinsically designed backgrounds, all of them brimming with care and charm, the character portraits which illustrate their personality in a single glance, or even the small little one-off things, like in the opening cutscene or in some of the animations. On top of this, the game uses a seasons mechanic, which shifts the look of the world dramatically every time it occurs. Just look at this. Look at how detailed these changes are. And finally, Stardew actually has a reason to use pixel art as its style, since it's based on the SNES Harvest Moon. It's why games like Shovel Knight work so well. The graphical choices are integral to the gameplay and intertwined with the game's creation. When pixel art is there for no other reason than because it's pixel art, it does lose a lot of the impact and most crucially the purpose a good art style could have. Thankfully, Stardew's art style is both appealing and a fantastic complement to an already fantastic game.
Oh, sorry, I didn't notice you there. I'm too busy multitasking. It's this new thing I'm trying out. It's quite difficult to do, but in today's modern age with so many different things to do, it's frankly necessary. I'm actually starting to get quite good at it. That's lunch.
On the surface, Stardew Valley's gameplay does seem quite basic, and in some aspects, it really is. If you're just looking at an individual element of the game, like farming, it can be easy to argue this as the case. All you have is a fairly basic crop system, as well as an animal system and the ability to customize all of this, which is honestly quite limited. If this was the only part of the game, Stardew Valley would be completely empty. Thankfully, that is not the case. Instead of that,
there is so much fucking content, I can't do it all fucking out!
Stardew Valley is so vast in its content that it's realistic that unless you put hundreds of hours into the game, you will never see it all. I've played over 100 hours, and I've still barely scratched the surface on the relationships, late game mining, crop maximization, automation, and a host of other things. There is always something to do, and as the game advances, this still never changes. Oh, so you've caught all the fish you can and don't know what else to do? Well, go and catch all those legendary fish, why don't you? Oh, so you've reached the bottom of the mine and are currently hovering over Reddit for the 10th time today? Well, why don't you complete all the monster eradication goals and net yourself some sweet rewards? Already married someone, have 2 children and are content in your life? Well, how about you divorce them, keep custody of the kids and find a new wife, meanwhile isolating your ex?
You can do this in this game. Whether you should or not.
What I'm trying to get across is, Stardew Valley has a heap of content, and while not all the gameplay styles are winners, there is enough here to satisfy you however far you are into the game. There are even mild shake-ups throughout the game, like the introduction of slime farming, which is still something I've never done, and I'm really annoyed about that. Or even the occasional event, which are pretty fun the first time you experience them. Emphasis on the first time, there is so much to do in Stardew Valley, and regardless of gameplay genre, it is always extremely fun and extremely relaxing to do.
Huh, we're finally reaching the finish line after all. I thought it would never end. But we do have one more section to go, and I'm gonna have to put up a warning here. If you don't like sappy stuff and want to retain your manliness, get on out of here right now. We're jumping in the deep end.
Throughout this admittedly far too long video, I haven't really discussed why I love Stardew Valley so much. I've discussed things I like, stuff I enjoy about the game, but nothing that really solidifies why I love this game more than any other. So let's do that now. What I look for in a game is fun. Wow, really? I can't believe you value fun in a game. That's incredible.
Oh, go back to 4chan.
If your game is as boring as watching paint dry, or infuriating to the point where I'm throwing insults about, the game is not fun, and I'd rather go play something else. There is a reason I love Nintendo games so much, and that's because they prioritize fun above anything else. Who cares if the story makes no sense, or if the graphics look appealing? As long as the game is fun, and it puts a smile on my face, I don't care. Well, actually, I do care a little bit. This is why I love Super Mario Odyssey so much. This is why games like Beat Saber are so great, and why, at the end of the day, I disliked Red Dead Redemption 2, because having fun is integral to me enjoying a game. If I'm not having fun, you've failed. Unless that's the point, in which case, yeah, go on ahead. And perhaps the game I've had the most fun with, out of all of them, is Stardew Valley. Whatever I'm doing in this game, whether I'm 1 or 100 hours in, is extremely enjoyable beyond anything I've ever played. I know that sounds a little ironic, especially when fishing is a part of this game, but even if an activity is inherently boring, the way it is implemented in Stardew puts a smile on my face every time. And most of the time, it's just the little things, like the random name generator for animals or the humorous exchanges with some of the villagers, that lift this game beyond any other. No matter how many more games I play, I will always come back to Stardew Valley as my favourite. And that isn't necessarily because of quality. There are many games that are far better than this, but at the same time, not a single one has brought me as much joy as Stardew Valley has. I don't think I will ever have a game I love more, because Stardew Valley is the definition of happiness for me. And however sappy that sounds to say, it's true. Stardew Valley is my favourite game of all time. No contest.
I finally did it! I made the video I wanted to make for 3 years now. That's another one off the bucket list. And the one below that is... don't release another video for 4 to 5 months. Well, I've got to do what this thing says, folks. Sorry. Hopefully me being gone doesn't cause World War III or anything. I'll be seeing you.
This is an emergency broadcast to announce that the apocalypse has just started because some random kid jinxed it.